I was either going to start with the helmet on or playing the didgeridoo.
What would have been magical is to have you playing the didgeridoo with the helmet on. Why not combine the two?
I'll see if I could do that.
Dude, if you can make that happen, then any foreign exchange transactions we get involved in, you can have them for free. You'll get market pricing. I won't make a bean on it.
Market price.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, crap.
Let's see. We can.
Oh, no, it's got to be the full face. New caveat. I did not know you could do that. Damn it.
There you go. See? Your little trick there. Take off the face. Leave the helmet on.
Darn it. Yeah, I mean, technically you were right.
Yeah.
So, mate, listen, welcome back. Let's get straight into this, shall we? Welcome back.
Great.
First time, you're a first repeat guest, should we say?
That's phenomenal. I'm honored.
This is. I don't know if we're doing this because we couldn't find anybody else, or if we really think you're interesting. So let's see how that.
We'll go with the first one that I'm just. There's nobody else to do it. So
no. Nobody else could come close.
Right.
Excuse me. How about that? But it's going to be good to catch up and just go through some. It's been. I'm trying to think now. I think I know it was May of last year actually when we recorded.
So almost a full year. Almost a full year. And there's been a ton of things that have gone down since then. To now, and naturally we're going to gravitate towards what's happening in Eastern Europe, but probably also the most obvious is COVID. But I want to go back to probably to that last discussion in May or since May. What's been happening with you folks? What's new? How did the year shape up for you, and how has 2022 started? Has it been busy? It's been extremely busy, and we kind of a couple of years ago shifted our focus, especially with COVID and the pandemic going on. We saw a tremendous reduction in the amount of products coming from Canada to the US, which was really where we started our business. And I had to do a presentation on USMCA, obviously the trade agreement that replaced NAFTA. And I charted the movement of goods from Canada to the US and Mexico to the US. And it bottomed out that 2020, that beginning of 2020, which I had no idea. Well, I knew because my business bottomed out, but it bottomed out. Like the amount of goods that was coming in Canada went to like zero. They just really, and Mexico, same thing. It went down to zero, and it really didn't hit pre-pandemic numbers until late 2021. So you look at November, December, like October, November, December, 2021, that was just reaching pre-pandemic numbers. So if I put 2019 goods of trade with Canada and 2021, it was still below up until that October, November, December. So we saw this huge decrease, and we're just seeing that happen. However, if you look at the amount of goods that was imported into the United States through that time, it's through the roof. It's just not from our trading partners in North America. You know, border restrictions, not that they restricted the border with any of their mandates, any country. But I think what we saw was the actual effect of shutting down non-essential businesses. The repercussion of that, the ripple effect of, hey, these are non-essential businesses, but they're a ripple effect into the essential businesses. You know, we may have shut down restaurants, but why is the dairy going to continue to produce ice cream if they don't have anybody to sell it to?
Right. Well, I actually have an 8-year-old that would actually take on probably most of the US consumption, if allowed
That's awesome.
to do just that.
That's awesome.
And I wouldn't be far behind him. But it's interesting about the flow of goods coming and raw materials, if you will, coming across from Canada and Mexico. I would have assumed that there would have been an explosion, given that it had become a lot more difficult to get product in from China, from mainland Europe. You know,
let me look at my computer screen here for a minute. I'm going to see if I could bring that up from the presentation. Just get that slide.
Right. Well, while you're looking at that, I'll caveat my comment there by saying, well, of course, Canada can't produce the same type of good that might be typically imported from Europe or from Asia, but certainly manufacturing in maybe in Mexico. There's a number of businesses that I've been speaking to over even pre-pandemic years, that have been suggesting that they want to switch production from China, which has traditionally been cheaper, to Mexico, where it might be slightly more expensive, but quicker to get product into the US over land than it is overseas, should I say?
Yes.
Or in the ocean, I suppose, is the correct terminology.
And what it ends up being is, I think it was more so the stance that the governments took on COVID and what they shut down and how they shut it down. Right. And that's where I think Canada took a much harder stance than the United States, and Mexico took a much harder stance on what was essential and what was non essential. And that's where we saw the big impact from was that stance on what is essential, what isn't essential.
Right.
So this is US Mexico. This is both US. This is US Mexico. The 3 years. So we have 2019 is blue, we have 2020 in orange, and we have 2021 in the gray. And what you could see is that we have a substantial increase here in trade. And then we have this bottoming out here of trade.
Yeah.
And then it slightly comes up, almost back, like, so remember, this blue is pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
We kind of bump up, but we're not here yet. And then you look at all of 2021, we're still not pre-pandemic until that October, November, December. It's an amazing, and I'm going to try and do, okay, so here's both countries combined with trade. This is free trade, only things that are imported under the trade agreement. And what we also have to remember is that trade agreement took effect the new trade agreement, USMCA, took effect June of 2020. Right. So that's our new USMCA agreement. And this is both US and Mexico combined. And you see that bottoming out of trade here and really not coming up again to that pre-pandemic till October. So North American trade suffered tremendously due to the pandemic. And that was one of our key things was switching our business focus to air and ocean shipments that were coming into the United States. And that's kind of what really kept us rolling, was those air and ocean. That never really slowed down, and we could tell because look at that backup we had in Los Angeles and California, the ports out there. I mean, just tremendous backup at those ports. Yeah. So, but there's some things that were going on that nobody talked about. It wasn't just the pandemic. It was a labor problem. It was new fees that they were putting in and some other stuff that really caused that backup. And then I think the pandemic just exacerbated it. So
right.
Yeah. And that's what's really going on here.
How did you make that switch? So how did you think about focusing on the ocean and the air freight? How do you are you there like specifically marketing and researching companies that are using those?
Yeah, routes? So we really went from the non-resident importer because we have a really kind of weird thing happening here at the northern border where Canadian companies act as the importer of record in the United States to make it easier to sell to the US.
Right.
And I just really switched my focus from selling to Southern Ontario to selling in the United States. We opened up that office in Cleveland. We have an office in Pittsburgh. We're going to be going down to Charlotte and Tampa and just focusing on US companies that are importing versus those non-resident importers that, it's a small portion of their business that's coming down to the United States. So why not focus on somebody that all of their business, they're a manufacturer and they're importing their parts into the United States. And that really was our shift.
So this is a shift in the sales strategy.
Yeah.
For you folks. Okay. Awesome. And in terms of changes, if there have been some, and I believe there have, changes in tariffs, changes in regulation, I guess, around what imports specifically. You guys, I know we talked about this before, but you're always very much current. You're always very much up to date and proactively reaching out to clients to say, hey, don't forget that this is coming, or this has happened, or this is going to affect you in the future. What can you talk to maybe what some of those changes might have been, just to bring that level of awareness to those that are not your clients?
Sure. So we went through the tariff guide, the harmonized tariff schedule went through an enormous update. So we had, I don't know how many tariff numbers updated. So double check what your tariff was, double check what your tariff is now, see if that has any impact to the duty amount, which it really shouldn't. Most of these tariff shifts are for statistical reporting purposes. So the way that tariff number is broken down, and I'm getting really boring right now, but this is exciting for me. It's a 10-digit number. The last 4 digits are for statistical reporting quantities for the countries that they're in. So your tariff number, the full 10 digits, won't be accepted in every country. It's only those first 6 that are internationally accepted. Those last 4 kind of break it down. The United States may say, hey, look, we want to know how many LCD televisions, how many LED televisions, how many plasma televisions come into the United States. Canada may say, we really don't care. We just want to know how many high definition televisions come into Canada. It doesn't matter what type it is. That's where those last 4 digits will change, because in Canada, they will just have high definition televisions. In the US, we will have like 90-10, 90-20, 90-30, and they're going to have different specifications on how to classify that television, because we want to know that. So that last 4 this, so that was something that happened. It's not earth shattering. It happens all the time, but hey, just don't be caught off guard that, hey, why is my 7501 different than from my paperwork? And why did that switch? And what's going on? So that was a big change. But something that could have tremendous impact in the industry is the competes legislation. And that is coming through Congress. It's coming through, and it has bipartisan support. And there's a lot of changes in that, but specifically to what's going on with trade. One of the biggest things is they're going to talk about de minimis and eliminating de minimis for certain countries. What that means is there's this regulation out there that anything that's $800 US dollars in value or below can come in under what's called a Section 321. Low value goods. US Customs doesn't care. There's no entry required. To connect the dots, we had the 301 duties for China, because we're in a trade war with China still.
Right.
The government implemented the 301 duties, which increased duty on those products coming from China anywhere from 15 to 21%. So that's a big amount of duty on anything, not anything, but those prescribed tariff numbers coming from China. Additional duties on the regular duty rate prescribed in the tariff guide. So what a lot of companies did, which was very smart of them, is they broke up their shipments and they said, it's a Section 321. So guess what doesn't apply? The duty doesn't apply, the merchandise processing fee doesn't apply, and the Section 301 duties don't apply. So in effect, it's coming in duty free. The US government kind of keeps track of all that. they're processing more what they call 86 type entries, which are these low value entries, than they are regular entries. So where do they see all their revenue going? Now, we have a government that has been sending out stimulus packages that is spending money like water. Where are they going to get the money from? Historically speaking, U.S. Customs was the only revenue generating department in the U.S. government. So from the inception of the United States until 1913, actually 1915, when the IRS was invented and deemed a government department and started collecting federal tax, U.S. Customs was the only source of revenue for our country. So tariffs, and when people say, "Oh no, people pay for tariffs and tariffs are bad," and I look at the history of the country, the only reason why we had money as a country was because of tariffs on imported goods.
Right.
And that's the way tariffs work. The reason why we have tariffs is to protect the commerce in the United States and protect those U.S. industries that make that same product that are coming into the United States. So if we have tariffs on goods that aren't made in the United States, that's kind of counterproductive. If we don't grow coffee, which we don't, there's only one state in the United States that grows coffee, and that's Hawaii. That's why there's no tariffs on coffee. So we don't have tariffs on coffee. We have tariffs on products that are made outside of the United States that are made in the United States. So, the clothing industry was a big industry that we had a lot of tariffs on, but we've eventually lost our clothing industry. We've lost our textile industry. So those tariffs and those quotas are coming down. So we have sugar quotas, we have dairy quotas. Those tariffs protect U.S. industry. So just a little different perspective than what's out there in the mainstream media.
Right. So that's always good to know. So the legislation that you've just spoken about, then when likely are we to see that?
I would say you're going to likely see that come into later this year, early next year, when that finally funnels its way through. The way that works is the legislation is going to be passed, then it's going to be published in the Federal Registry. There's going to be comment period times, and then they're going to go into actual enforcement of that and say, hey, this is how it's going to happen. But that's really kind of at the beginning stages now.
Right. And what prep, if any, do you need to do? What prep, if any, do you need to do with your existing client base ahead of that?
With us, most of our clients aren't doing a lot of Section 321s now. Where this is going to be a huge impact is this is going to impact Amazon. This is a huge impact on Amazon. When you order for something from Amazon and that supplier is in China and they send it directly to you, they don't pay any of those duties. So it's all these small, low value shipments that are coming in. Who's driving that business? It's Amazon. Amazon is going to get whacked because now the whole process is going to change for them. It's not going to come in with no entry required. They're going to need a customs entry. It's going to be a formal entry, and they're going to have to pay duty on it. Right.
Is that going to slow up the transition of goods from China, for example, to the US?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's going to put a big kink in it because right now there's no customs entry. So it comes in on a flight. They just list it on their manifest. It goes to you. Now you have to get a customs broker like myself involved. We have to process an entry, have to pay the duties. Somebody's got to pay the duties. Who's going to pay the duties? Well, Amazon really takes a stance that, hey, we're just a marketplace. We're not an importer. We're not a supplier. We're not a manufacturer. They're going to make you as the individual do that and be responsible for that. So how do you make that happen? So I think this is going to throw a big kink into that process, shopping on Amazon.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But it's also going to impact a lot of the brick and mortar stores, because your brick and mortar stores that you order from online will have the same issue like Best Buy. If they ship direct from China from their suppliers to you to avoid those duties, which they're doing that same thing, they're now going to have to bring in that product into the United States under one entry and then distribute it from the United States.
Right. Okay. And that's then going to potentially increase the price of the goods.
Yes. Mhm.
So they,
And what
so
we've seen, well, it'll do one of a number of things. So what you see in the mainstream media is, yeah, they're gonna pass on those 301 duties. You're gonna pay for it in the pocket as the consumer.
yep,
What we see in reality is the importer here in the United States pushes back on the manufacturer in China and says, lower your rates because I have to pay this duty. And China goes,
right.
no problem. So who's paying the duty? Who's paying that duty in that scenario? It's the Chinese company that's taking the hit on that 301 duty.
Yeah.
The other scenario is, which we've helped a number of companies do, they move production out of China to a different country. So they find a manufacturer in a different country, or they build a whole new manufacturing facility in a different country. The way that they do that, and the way to do it smartly, is to look at all the countries that we have trade agreements with, because we have trade agreements with a ton of countries out there. I mean, there's just too many to list. So why take production out of China when you're paying 12% duty on it? They add that 20%. Now we take production and move it to a country that you're still paying 12% duty. Don't do that. Move it to a country where you're paying 0% duty because we have a trade agreement. And that's what we help companies do, to say, hey, look, let's be a little bit smarter about our supply chain and build some predictability into it and build more profit into it. So that's the key moving forward,
Right.
is trying to build predictability in your supply chain and using international trade regulations to your advantage as a manufacturer. So
what you've just described there goes back to what we spoke about in May last year, like what to look for when you're selecting a customs broker, someone who's going to be up on information, proactively bringing that to prospects and clients, making recommendations on how to change business practices, or whatever it might be, but bringing that information, being proactive, putting your arms around clients, being human, that makes a big difference, right?
Well, hey, look, I've always said this from the beginning when I started the company back in 2008 or not 2008. 2008. Wow. It's a long time.
You are that old, yes.
I am that old. I've always said our most prized possession here at Welke is our client. Without our client, we're nothing.
Yeah.
So, take care of your client and everything else will fall into place.
I'm going to contradict that slightly by saying, and I suppose it depends on the size of the organization, but one could argue your employees are the most important. Take care of them and they will take care of your client. But you're absolutely spot on that. I mean, like at the end of the day, without clients, the school fees don't get paid, right?
Right. They pay. I tell our employees that all the time. I don't pay your paycheck. My signature might be on it, but our clients pay your paycheck.
Absolutely.
So take care of them.
100%. So quickly before we wrap up, switching attention to the most obvious current topic, Russia's invasion of Ukraine. How is that from a sanctions perspective against Russia? How is that affecting your clients? Are there many that are importing from Russia?
I have not seen any import sanctions as of yet. So I'm still looking for import sanctions. What we do see is export. We see you can't export anything to Russia right now. So the sanctions are working on an export side. Don't quote me on this. I have not seen anything yet in anything I'm reading about import sanctions from Russia. We haven't totally cut them off. They're doing a lot of sanctions that you won't see as an importer or you won't see as an exporter with monetary stuff. And then you see a lot of companies like the oil companies saying that they're going to divest interest in Russia. They're not going to do this. You're seeing small companies say, well, we're not going to put Russian products on our shelf. I understand what's going on, but there are people that own those companies that you buy from in Russia that may not have the same view as the guy who is in charge of Russia.
Yes. Yeah.
So I see two sides there. Yeah, let's stop it, but let's not hurt the wrong people in the whole process.
Yeah, so there's I don't want to get too political, but I think there's a number of schools of thought around that, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm going to be very careful. So
Yeah.
because this could go down
Enough said. We don't even have to go down there. Yeah, it's a horrible thing that's going on, and this is crazy. How do we stop it? How do we prevent it? I don't know. I'm not that guy. What I am is I'm an expert in international trade law. So what I can tell you is we're not going to be able to export anything to Russia. The sanctions that I see are on export. They're not on import. They're on a financial level. They're seizing assets, and not seizing, freezing assets, diplomats and stuff like that. So, we're doing, I think as a country, we're doing the best that we can. Obviously, it's a touchy situation.
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody this morning. We don't want to get into World War III. So we have to be careful as a nation what we do. So I could see the hesitation and the reason for it. We're not going to send troops into the Ukraine, which just doesn't make sense. We don't want to start World War III. But again, what I know is trade law, we're doing sanctions on the export side right now. If anything happens on the import side, I'll definitely be putting it out there and letting people know.
Yeah. There's there's restrictions in and around money movement as well. And SWIFT, which is the agency, if you will, that links banks together. That's a mechanism that banks talk to each other in a secure environment. Have cut off links with, I think it's 6 or 7 maybe of the Russian banks. So that's going to prevent the Russian banks from moving money around and accepting funds in as well. So it doesn't kill it entirely, but it makes life a little bit more difficult for those that are importing from Russia, even though the restrictions are not there. But to pay Russia is going to become a little bit more convoluted, is going to become a little bit more problematic. But that being said, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and I have no companies that are importing from Russia right now. So I have I know that their big export is oil. So I know in the oil industry, they're probably hurting. And, obviously we're seeing oil prices go up. But I have nobody who's buying, widgets from Russia or cogs or whatever. We don't do a terrible large amount of alcohol either, but I could see alcohol being one of the large exports from Russia. Other than that, I'm not seeing a ton of stuff being made in Russia.
We can buy quality vodka from the US now, right? So
we could buy quality vodka from Poland.
Of course we can. Noting the last name. Oh, and you have some.
Well, no, I have.
Oh, there we go.
There.
There we go. That's it. And Poland are, not to go too far off topic, but Poland are heroes right here, right now. Like almost every Polish family that has a spare room in their house, they're taking refugees by the hundreds of thousands a day at this point in time. So kudos to the folks in Poland.
Kudos to the folks in Poland, and keep making that good vodka, and I will buy it all the time.
That's it. So you are single-handedly propping the Polish economy, and we applaud that, and as I'm sure they do.
It's hard to find on the shelves, but that Polish vodka, it's good.
It's good. And so before we jump ship, 2022. I can't believe I'm saying that. I still feel like the party of the millennium is still ringing in my ears. New Year's Eve 1999 just feels like yesterday.
Yeah.
But so here we are, 2022. You referenced earlier on new offices potentially in Charlotte and in Tampa.
Yes.
So that's positive, right? We're expanding.
Oh yeah.
Why? I think I have the answer in my head, but why Charlotte and Tampa specifically, and so close together geographically?
Much warmer than Buffalo.
There is that, but there's also Honolulu for that if you really
Well,
want to go there.
The office in Hawaii is on the plan. So we have my whole plan is to be in every state in the country. But what I did is I took the top 10 states that import product into the United States and the ports, and that's where we're opening up our sales offices strategically is the top 10 importing states. So
is Hawaii not one of those states? I would have thought they have to import pretty much everything. By and large,
surprisingly, they get everything from the mainland mostly.
Okay.
So it's already been imported. So then it goes to Hawaii from the mainland, most of their distribution. Right. So they're kind of low on the list as far as states that import. Population drives a lot of that. They're not hugely populated.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, I'd like to be down in Hawaii before I retire. So.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You need to be able to afford to retire in Hawaii as well. And I'm sure that only so many times can you do your reconnaissance mission to look at whether you're going to open an office there or not before the IRS say, I don't know if we can actually legitimately have that as an expense on your company financials.
Right. Why do you have 75 trips to Hawaii this year?
Yeah, I just couldn't make my mind up.
Right.
Yeah, exactly that.
The problem is the landmass in Hawaii continues to grow, so there's new places to check every day.
Dude, I'm in. I get it. So that's brilliant. So when are we looking at Charlotte and Tampa? When do we think we're going to be potentially going live?
Well, we've laid the groundwork down there, and I have to say that my entry into a new market is always partnering with the Chamber of Commerce in that market. Yep. So chambers of commerce in those areas help out tremendously. We've already made connections at both chambers, so we've started the groundwork. I would say we will probably have a rep in there by the end of 2022, both reps, Charlotte and Tampa.
Brilliant. Anybody internally volunteering that they might want to move further south?
We're changing our headquarters to Charlotte, so
that makes sense. I
have a family, so I have to move the family with me. So
I'm not going to make any jokes about does it make sense to go on your own and leave the family behind, just in case they decide that they might want to watch this. So yes, taking the family is important. All right, my friend. Listen, it's been great to catch up. Thanks for
Mark. Thank you for having me.
What you folks have been up to, and keep providing that level of information flow to the clients. It's brilliant what you guys are doing. I love the proactivity. I think that's one of the reasons why we got together really in the first place, is that our philosophies are very much aligned when it comes to how we manage clients. And good luck for the rest of the year. Thanks, Mark. Take care, and we'll get you some more donuts soon, even though you're on a diet. Busted. But I'm not going to say no. All right. Take care. Thanks, buddy.